Hello. Cool. We're live. Get the link. Okay. Oh, if anyone's around, stop in the live stream or just watch YouTube or watch it later. Okay, so we have a Firebase is a thing that everyone's talking about. And I know what it is. It's a database. It's sort of like maybe like Mongo, maybe like Postgres, but it's sort of its own thing, and it's managed by, I think it was bought by Google, and you can basically rent database from them, probably for free, up to a pretty big size, and that makes it probably a good choice if you are behind on your database. And that's really all I know. So what I'm going to try to do is actually just sign up for it and figure out what it is, and we'll make a little Express app based on it. So this might be a little rough, but this is going to be sort of like the real process of finding out something new, and hopefully at the end of it we will have a new Firebase version of a sample code. And we'll look into, I've heard they have a user model, so a lot of the user authentication and passwords hashing supposedly is easy. So we'll see if that's true. Okay, so what I'm doing here is getting a folder set up in the sandbox. So I'm going to call this one chat room Firebase. Okay, we got quite a lot of these now. Hopefully this is the easiest and simplest one. And really, maybe it's pretty much the same as using Sequelize or something, or a little better maybe. But I think the real win comes in, you're not going to have to configure, you'll have to do some configuration, but you won't have to go rent a database from Heroku or rent a database from Amazon and then wire them up yourself. It's very much a package. I think it's on NPM, and that's it. So here's our folder. I'll bring up a terminal here, and we will bring up the browser, and we're going to go to firebase.com, hopefully, is the site. Okay, so it definitely was bought by Google. Let's do this like Twitch streamer style. Here we go. All right, so go to console. Do I already have an account? Oh, this is my work account. Okay, let me start a brand new everything, new incognito window. Go to console, sign in. Let's sign in. Oh, so you need a Google account. Okay. I'm just going to use my work Google account because whatever. Okay, go to console. So you're magically signed in if you're signed in to Gmail because they bought it. So pretty cool. So sign into Gmail. You should see a little icon or whatever, and then you're signed in. Okay, that's pretty simple. Create a project. That sounds good. Start with the project. We'll call this chat room Firebase. I mean, it's a little redundant, but maybe just chat room is okay because we know it's Firebase. Accept the Firebase terms, and this here is a probably unique identifier. So they just put some random stuff at the end of it. Probably everyone in the world, nobody else can take this name now. Now I could probably, try to come up with a clever brand, which has not been taken yet, but let's just keep it this. Okay. Continue. Google Analytics for your Firebase project. Okay, I don't care, but that sounds cool. Okay, it's loading. Something's loading. Hey, Karen. Okay, continue. Get started by adding Firebase to your app. Add an app to get started. Web. So if you're doing a mobile app, you do these. We are probably doing web apps. Register app. Chat room. Also set up Firebase hosting. Probably want to do that, but I'm going to click Learn More. Hosting. Secure hosting for your web app, static and dynamic content, and microservices. Web content hosting for what? I thought this was a database. Okay. Yeah. Infrastructure, features, tooling, using the Firebase you deploy to your hosting server. This looks correct. So maybe it's the API and the database all together. Let's figure out what this is. I'm going to say yes, set it up. This was what I picked earlier, I guess, and that's fine. Register app. Copy and paste these scripts into the bottom of your body tag. What? Oh, okay. Add Firebase SDK. Okay, maybe I should start with get started with Firebase for web. I thought this was going to be like a node server that we were going to install Firebase into. And maybe I'm going to have to look up this. Add Firebase to your JavaScript project. So in a web app or as a client, I don't quite understand. Install CLI. You link your Firebase with a blah, 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 blah. Okay, they are trying to sell absolutely everything to you all at once. So authentication, here we go. So Node.js, web and Node.js. Okay, there's the first mention I've heard of Node.js. I think that's what we want. Authentication, Cloud Firestore, that's definitely a database, gotta be. This is probably like, maybe like serverless style, like functions which are basically endpoints to an API, but it's a different way of thinking about it. Cloud messaging, yeah, okay. What's Firestore? Real-time database. Okay, there's Firestore and then there's database. So this definitely has something that we want somehow on Node.js. Available Firebase modules for Node.js. I think this is what we want. Firebase app, Firebase auth, Firebase Firestore, functions, and database. Cool. This is starting to make sense. And what we want to do is find out what is Firestore versus database. Okay, this Firestore is a database, but database is different than Firestore. Okay. From the console, create database for Cloud Firestore. What's the difference? All right. Firestore versus database. Cloud Firestore versus real-time. Oh, is it real-time database? real-time database, and it's just called database. That is not confusing at all. Both real-time database and Cloud Firestore are NoSQL database. This sounds like what I want. Cloud Firestore is Firebase's newest database for mobile app. It builds on the successes of the real-time database with a new, more intuitive data model. Oh, this is like version 2. Richer, faster queries and scales further than the real-time database. And this is the original Firebase. Okay, so they're both databases. They're basically the same thing. This is version 2. This is version 1. They could have called it database version 1 and database version 2, but no, they have to get all fancy branding about it. That's fine. I should have my head ranting on the screen, I realized, because I make some expressions when I'm mad about this stuff, and it's like part of the, you know, how do I, why is Karen the active speaker? I guess you're the only other speaker in there. Hide non-video participants. No. All right, whatever, too bad. Okay, so both real-time database and Cloud Firestore NoSQL. Real-time database stores data as one large JavaScript object notation tree. Stores data as a collections of documents. Complex hierarchical data is easier to organize at scale using sub-collections within documents. Requires less denormalization and data flattening. Okay, so this probably doesn't make sense to anybody, but what they're saying basically is this is friendlier to use with a sort of a relational model. And this one is better as just like sort of a key value store. Like every key has some thing associated with it. It's going to be harder to say, you know, I have customers here, products here, or messages here, or Karen, like targets here, and score. What is it called? Rounds. You know, that kind of interrelated data is going to be harder in the old one than it is in the new one, is what they're saying. So I think we should use the new one. In Cloud Firestore, it's a document. So it's going to be sort of like MongoDB, and it'll have probably all the similar features. References to collections. Okay. Okay, well, let's do Cloud Firestore Node Express. And let's come up with like some kind of tutorial to. Hello? Can anyone hear? Did we lose the meeting? Who's here? Anyone here?
Me.
Okay, so it's still working, but I've been signed out. So hopefully it's still on YouTube and everything. Okay, we're gonna go for it. Hopefully they don't delete our meeting. It said I've been signed out, but that could have been from earlier. Okay, back to the okay. Cloud Firestore Express. Build a serverless RESTful API with Cloud Functions Firestore. A lot of buzzwords here, but I think this is good. Cloud Functions, Firebase Hosting, Cloud Firestore, and TypeScript. That's fun. I kind of like all of that, but we'll see. Serverless. Why is it all serverless all of a sudden? Okay, maybe this is good. Let's try it out. So, I mean, serverless is probably, if it actually works and it's not just hype, it might be good because that means you don't have to deploy a separate applications server either. And this is sort of like one shot. This is the entire backend for your project, all rolled up in a nice ball that you then rent from somebody, which is a perfectly good option. And it's free, of course, when you're doing it on a small scale. So it has a lot going for it. Let's just figure out which one. Serverless REST Node.js. I kind of like serverless REST Cloud Functions and TypeScript. I'm going to check this one out. Yeah, serverless runs on servers. Yeah, that's right. It's just you're renting the server. You got it. And you don't have to do manual Ubuntu commands or anything like that. And it's more expensive usually than if you did manual Ubuntu commands, but that's a trade-off. That's good. And it's only at scale again. So all good. Okay, is there code? Create Firebase. Remember to choose Firestore as your database. Initiate Firebase hosting and functions on your local machine. Okay, we are getting somewhere here. So let me go back to where is my Firebase? Okay, this doesn't make any sense. We're gonna come back to this if we have to. Authentication, Cloud Firestore, here we go. So there's both of these. I think we want both, but let's start with this one and then maybe try the user thing later. Chat room, looks good. Cloud Firestore. Create database. Start in locked mode. Allow all reads and writes or make it private by denying all reads and writes. I think I'm going to do this the proper way, and third-party reads and writes will be denied. That means, okay, so that's probably okay. I have to be able to read and write, right? They're going to give me some kind of password or credentials. Write rules to secure your data. Learn more. I'm going to open this one for later. Okay, fine. Add Firebase to, yeah, who cares? Get started with cloud. Yeah, we got the tutorial. We got this for later, maybe security rules. That'll be fun. I'm going to start in locked mode, see what happens. Your location setting is where your Cloud Firestore data will be stored. You cannot change it later. US Central, Europe West. Yeah, I'm going to leave it as the default. Provisioning Cloud Firestore. Okay. So this is starting to, it's a little weird just to, there's clearly a history here. This project has sort of a existing users, and it's starting to grow in the way that every sort of legacy system grows, where it's getting more complicated. And to a newcomer, it's a little bit just like, what is going on? And you end up basically having to pick a tutorial that sounds good, and it's a gamble. Like, we don't know whether this is going to work great, but this is probably the best way to get this up and running quickly. Okay, and I think our odds are pretty good here. So we created a database, Cloud Firestore, start collection. I'm going to go back to this tutorial. Now, how do I access this? They said nobody can access this, but how do I access it? See all projects, rules, indexes. Oh boy. So the rules are open to public. Oh no. They just assumed you picked everything is open to public. You need to implement the security for Firestore. Ah, crap. Okay. Oh, geez, what is this? Allow read write if request auth UID. Oh no. Oh, did we go about this the wrong way here? Log in, after that, you log in and init Firebase project. Oh boy, you're supposed to do it all from the command line. All right, let's try. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, we're gonna do this in VS Code. Sorry. Close. VS Code terminal. Here we go. I'm going to run npm init first, empty folder. Good. And now I'm going to do that first command, which is npm install -g. So I guess it doesn't matter. Global Firebase tools. This sounds good though. This is like, I was hoping like it would be something like this, where you just install a package, you do all of your operations with this, and then this is what basically also deploys it to the internet. So it's possible we didn't need to do any of this at all. We could just get rid of this. But I've already named it chat room. Lovely. Why don't maybe I'll delete the project. But this will take a little bit to install, I suppose. And here's what I'll do is I'll paste a little log of the commands that actually work, because that's always nice. Okay, Firebase tools. And then we're going to do Firebase login, Firebase login, Firebase init. Firebase login. Allow Firebase to collect anonymous CLI usage and error reporting information. Yeah, normally I'd be like, no, you can't have, but why don't I endorse? Yes, allow them to improve their service. Maybe they'll write better documentation. Okay, so I have to log in with OAuth. This will allow Firebase CLI to view and manage your data. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to have to do that. I think I trust Firebase CLI. It is actually owned by Google, so, Okay. Immediately close this window and continue using the CLI. All right, so success, hooray, it's working. That's actually pretty nice flow. You don't have to do anything except be logged into your Gmail account, just like when you log into the console there in Chrome. Okay, Firebase init is the next thing. Which Firebase features do you want to set up for this folder? Press space to select features, then enter to confirm your choices. Whoa. All right, space bar. I'm going to say database. No, not database. I've pressed space bar again. So the down arrow maybe? Whoa, that's creepy. All right, Firestore, space bar. Functions. Okay. Storage. What's storage? All right, let's see what the tutorial says. Remember to check both functions and hosting. Maybe, really? Firestore as your database and functions and hosting. I'm assuming functions, hosting. They didn't check Firestore? Are you kidding me? Oh man, this tutorial probably is garbage. This doesn't make any sense. let's go check out another tutorial before we get up in a bad situation again. Oh, they say go to the website and do it. Okay. Firestore, develop database, start in test mode. Firebase tools, login, we did that. Init, functions and hosting. Is this just a plagiarized version of the other article? Okay, so I'm really confused here. Why do we do both of these? And everybody says do it in test mode. So maybe let's just try to back out our, choice to make it secure and make it not secure because it's a tutorial and who knows. Rules. What's rules? Huh, okay, yeah, look at this. So allow read write if false. I'm pretty sure that the test mode is pretty much this. If you allow read write if true. Match document, blah, blah, blah. Publish. Okay, well, we can do this anytime we want. So start in test mode. That must have been, yeah, that must have been the no authentication. Install Firebase, select only the two, not cloud functions. All right, both tutorials say this, so we're gonna go for it. But this is very strange and I don't like it at all. So you don't select Firestore, but you do select functions and hosting, right? Okay. We're gonna go for it. This is weird. So I press space before I got functions and hosting. I'm hitting enter. Don't set up a default project. Select a default Firebase project for this directory. So it's this. It should be this one. I guess you could do create a new project if you didn't do it, but it would be a very similar thing. And maybe that's why you don't select Firestore, because I don't know, I don't get it really, but this is what the tutorial says, and we already have the project, and you have to select one and create one anyway, so I guess it's okay. We created it. It has the Firestore, whatever. Return, so I'm gonna hit enter, select this thing. A functions directory will be created in your project with Node.js package pre-configured. Functions can be deployed with Firebase Deploy. What language would you like to use? I'm going for TypeScript. Now you can do JavaScript if you want. I'm sure they will both work fine, but I use TypeScript a lot and I like it and everyone's talking about it, so we're gonna go for it. It's very similar, very similar. You already know most of all the code is very similar. But it checks for errors, all kinds of other errors. Do you want to use TS-lint to catch probable bugs and enforce style? Why not? Let's go for as much help as we can get. Do you want to install dependencies with npm now? Okay, I don't even have to write npm install. All right. And what I'm going to do next is just copy this whole thing into Slack. This is the whole log of what I did. Oh, link of the Medium article, sure. Well, let me paste this into Slack first. Here's the log of everything that I did in the console. Now you can probably just read through this. That is for me logging in, obviously. This should be different for everybody. And yeah, So it logs all of the, oh, it doesn't. Oh, cool. Well, they're here. The two I selected are here. It didn't print them out correctly, but it's functions and hosting. And then this. All right, so here's the tutorial. And I can't really vouch for this tutorial because as you see, I just found it and I have no idea whether it's gonna work or not. Not an endorsement, but this is what we're trying for Firebase. Okay, so please choose blah, blah, blah. It skips over a lot of stuff. Packages will be in the functions folder. npm install save, express body parser, Firebase functions helper. Okay. So let's go back to here. Oh, what do you want to use as your public directory? Public directory. I guess you could set up your whole project like this, and then the public directory would be where you build your React app. I think it would be where you configure your React app. So let's do something real quick here and make just real quickly. I'm going to try this. How do you do create React app? React scripts. What is anyone remember that? And this, you don't have to do this, but this is like, what I'm thinking is that if you made it all in the same folder structure, you'd want create React app to put your bundles, you know, when it does the web pack and the build and everything, you'd want it to put your bundles into this public folder if Firebase is going to be serving this stuff also. You know, I don't know if it's a good idea. It might be the fastest way to do this. It might not. I'm not sure. npx create React app, my app. All right, so I'm going to do test app, and I'm going to do -- Typescript. And this could be from the same folder, but I'm in the middle of that other workflow and I don't want to interrupt it, so I'm not using VS Code terminal. Small React digression to see where it puts files. And this should do all its stuff. And this, you know, we're building one thing in TypeScript. I'm like, might as well drop that in there too. And how's everyone's weekend going? Good. You know, it's going to be pretty hot again today. Probably going to rain again. It's been raining like every single day. I'm going to try to speed up my computer a little by stopping the video camera because it's not even showing up. So, yeah. Audio and screen share. Linda, are you describing the weekend, how it's going, or you have another question? I saw the typing alert here. Oh man, this is a long process. Yeah. I've had a lot of time off this. I mean, I did one meeting yesterday, but like just sort of decompressing. My last couple weekends were pretty busy. Oh, cool. All right, this is absurd how long this is taking. This is incredible. This is like, this is like stories from the 80s where it's like, oh, you have to compile your code, better go out to lunch. And then you come back and it might be done compiling. This is like, I thought we were better than this in 2019, but no, we compile the project for 10 minutes. All right, well, let's come back to that. So all I want to know is, where does it make the file to put the stuff? Does anyone know? Is it build? Is it pub? Is it bundle? Maybe the tutorial will show me before the stupid.
Hey, Gus. Hey, it's Joey.
What's up?
So you're looking for where the end result of the React app will be bundled?
Where it's going to be bundled, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it goes into a build folder.
Oh, cool. Okay, build.
Yep.
We're going to go with that, but I'm still mad about this. Look at this.
It might be because you're using npx and it's running it from wherever it's hosted.
And it's possibly okay. And it's possibly also my internet might be not the best, and it also might be an old version of npm or something.
When you install it globally, it's executing globally. You're just running it from wherever it's hosted.
Okay. So in test app we have public. Let's see.
Yeah, once you run npm build, it creates the build folder for you.
Oh, build. Okay, so but public is.
That's like your HTML template.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
All right, thanks. So I guess then what would you do in this case? It's like, what do you want to use? If you were thinking, well, maybe I'll put my React stuff, would you make it build or public? Because it's going to be using both.
I typically use build.
Okay.
Just because it matches the script name and it's easy to remember.
Okay, cool. And it should put everything you need to host your site, right? Or is it just the bundle goes in build?
I believe it copies everything in there.
Okay, let's go for it. Build is the way to go. Configure as a single page app, rewrite all URLs to, yeah, that sounds good. Wrote build index.html. So what this part is going to do is basically sometimes if you use React Router or something, you're going to have /this/that, and React Router is actually going to be interacting with the history API and sort of magically making it so that subfolders, which are normally different hosted files on the internet, right? The index.html or whatever, those are normally actually point to files that you're accessing. What it's going to do is basically say no matter what you do, it's going to serve the same index page. So if you go back to that link later, it won't be like, I can't find a file at this, because it was a JavaScript trick to make it actually look like you're going to a different file, but you're actually just running the same app. The application doesn't stop and reload. It's just handles it both ways. So that's what this is for. This is going to let you use React Router and things like that easily. Okay. Firebase JSON, Firebase RC, get ignore, Firebase initialization complete. All right, here's the rest of this. What did I? Oh. What did I paste before? Okay. So after, do you want to install Dependencies, where is this? And I'll edit this. So if you read through all of this, this is like exactly what it printed out for me. So, and it has my responses here. What do you want to use? Build, etc. It's a little hard to find, but that's pretty much brute force method you can use to see what exactly I did. Okay. So Firebase initialization complete. Let's go back to our tutorial. We don't need React stuff anymore. And maybe we'll try putting a React app into this project at the end if we got time. But okay, package dependencies. The packages will be in the functions folder. So let's see what we have now. We have build functions. We got all this stuff that it created. Build is where we're going to have our page and such. Okay. Chat room Firebase. There's no dependencies. What did it? Is there dependencies here? When it said it's going to add dependencies, where did it add them to? Maybe the functions folder. Got it. Okay. So here's where some dependencies are. Firebase admin, Firebase functions. Cool. And then there's an index file here, start writing Firebase functions. Okay, this is after the setup. I'm going to just immediately check this into GitHub. Whoops, I did not want to do that. Should be okay. All right. So functions is declared, but its value is never read. So this here is already TypeScript is starting to like get clever and tell you things that are kind of important. This is a warning. It will still work, but it's telling you you're never using functions, like, obviously, because this is commented out. If we uncomment this, it's going to stop complaining. It's going to say, okay, you're using functions, so I don't need to complain about this unused import. And there's a lot of things like that, which TypeScript is going to be real clever about because it understands a whole lot about the structure of your program. Anyway, so the packages will be in the functions folder. So we're going to do cd, Visual Studio Code. We're going to go cd functions and then npm install save, what is it? Express body parser Firebase functions helper. Express body parser Firebase functions helper. This will get a thumbs up. No. Oh, yeah. Nope. This is taking a long time to put a thumbs up on here. All right. So it's still installing anyway. We have to wait. Hopefully this takes less time than the React app install. All right, that's it. We got the 3 dependencies and they've been added here. So we have Firebase Functions Helper and we have our Express app here. So now I basically starting to get the sense of what this is. Functions logic is located at the functions folder. you first need to import the necessary packages, and then there's this giant chunk of code here. So we're importing all this stuff, express and body parser, admin, initialize app, admin Firestore. So here, instead of sequelize, whatever sequelize config, we have DB is Firestore. So this is going to be very similar to that, the role that we use sequelize for. Okay, there's no syntax highlighting. This tutorial is questionable. Deploying your hosting and functions. And Shisha Magic, cool. All right, so this we just are gonna just paste a whole bunch of code, I guess, into functions. I don't really get that, but I mean, this is like serverless functions. So we have index here, rather than all of this here, we can just say copy all this stuff. Okay, that's unnecessary. Why would you put 2 Express apps in the tutorial and not even mention that? That's insane. Main use for app? Seriously? All right, we're going to change this a little bit. But I think we need all the imports. So let's get rid of all this, and we'll say import. Now, what's it complaining about here? Could not find a declaration file for module Firebase functions helper. Try npm install /types Firebase functions helper. So this is TypeScript now being not so helpful automatically. It's saying that it doesn't understand any types for this thing. So one thing about TypeScript is if you write libraries for other people to use, if they're trying to use TypeScript, those libraries need to have types. And if they don't, it defaults to what's called the any type. And this means that, like, forget about what all the types, just ignore it, please, TypeScript. And by default, if we look at TS TypeScript config, it's going to say, well, the default is not here, but it's no implicit any. And that means it's going to complain if anything's not typed, unless you tell it, okay, just ignore this. So we can do any one of these things to make it go away if we need to. I'm going to try this first, because somebody might have created these. No, if it, oh, does it matter where I am? I think I'm supposed to be in functions, so sorry. npm install app types Firebase functions helper. Let's see if that exists. It doesn't exist, no. So everything is broken and terrible. All right. What is the Firebase functions helper? Well, here's what we're gonna do. This is probably what you want to do if you say, oh, I want to try TypeScript, but I don't want it to immediately smack me over the head with like all this type requirements in theory. You just use the any type. That's, and it's not like there's a lot of, it's sort of a shortcut, but like the reality is we're using this tutorial, somebody's built this helper and they haven't typed it. And, until someone does, or until you do, if you want to actually go and write the types for it, it's going to be harder it's going to be a stumbling block to use TypeScript unless we do this. So we're going to add at the end here, no implicit any. And it knows what we're talking about. Warn on expressions and declarations with an implied any type. False. So that's a double negative. It means implicit any, yes, it's okay. And if we go back here, that goes away, hooray. So it's still complaining that we're not using any of this stuff yet, but at least that will make it stop, freaking out, because we don't, every single thing we use is not typed. The world is not perfect, all of that. Admin initialize app. Okay. So that seems all right. Now this here uses both of these. So see, they become undimmed. And we need our Firestore, which I guess you use by calling admin.firestore. So we have a reference to our database here. We have two apps, which is insane. We're not going to do that. We're going to say app is app, and that's all there is. We're not trying to build a 5-year-long project here. Contacts collection equals the string contacts. I don't know what that is for, but whatever. Okay, so main, yeah, we're going to do app.use these things. And so see, I don't know if I mentioned this to everyone, but it's pretty common for there to be like a subfolder for each version of your API. And that's what they're doing here. They're just saying, basically, we're going to put everything in main, but main is actually like a subversion of this whole app thing. So everything in main, it's going to automatically prepend with these two. And it's going to confuse you when you try to use it from Postman, because you'll have to remember, oh, I have to prepend every URL with this thing. And if you're not actually doing something that's a long-term important, project, which has to be multiple versioned and everything, taking on that extra complexity doesn't make any sense at all. And it certainly is a horrible idea to just assume that everybody knows what you're talking about in a tutorial. So this is absurd that somebody would just do that without even mentioning why. Anyway. We're going to put app.use and app.use here. So we have our express app, one app. We use body parser. I don't know what this does. But we'll leave it, I guess, whatever. But that's for JSON, obviously. We did this in every express app. So it's easily takes the body of the requests and turns them into JSON objects. Okay. And then export constant web API equals functions.https.onRequestMain. I think app goes here in ours, but this will do something like turn our express app into something that can use Firebase functions to serve the requests. So this will be app. And look at this, you hover over it, TypeScript knows the type of this thing. It knows that it's an express type. And on request, it knows that basically the type of this thing is this, which apparently express type is compatible with. So if you tried to do anything else, if you tried to say const here, and you try to say that, TypeScript is going to say that's not correct. You can't put this, a string, as the argument to this thing. So it knows a whole lot. That's another, that's a benefit of it. So, okay, so if it doesn't complain, orange lines are okay. These are just hints, warnings. But the red lines, it's going to be, it's not going to run correctly. It's not a correct program, so it won't run. Okay. Web API is your function's name, and you'll pass main as a print. Yeah. I don't know. That doesn't even mean anything. So this tutorial is questionable at best. But at least it's got the stuff we're going to need. We also create Crud root for the API in the same file, maybe. Okay, so contacts. Okay. So there's an endpoint here. There's randomly right after it, there's a new doc, which is a Firestore. Oh, this is inside this, but it's not indented correctly. So this is one. Cool. So pretty much everything uses this very long Firebase helper dot Firestore dot update dot whatever. So it's very similar to Sequelize again. And we're not going to mess with most of this right now because we can probably figure them out later. We're going to do a get. Backup. What? Just completely not explained what any of this is. Get document. Backup. What? Why is this called backup? Let's look at the Firestore API. Firestore read data. So get multiple documents from a collection. Yeah, okay. So this makes a lot more sense. Get. I don't know what backup is for. Yeah. And I don't know why. I have to pretty much understand what the heck is going on here with what is Firebase helper? And why is there even a DB here? It's never even being used. Oh, create new document DB. Well, this is I'm not sure about this at all. Like this functions thing, I don't like this. I'm getting a very bad feeling about, like, it's not typed. It's in this sketchy tutorial, and I don't really like what it's like. This stuff is just nonsense. So we might have to like bail out of this again, because like, look at this, DB collection where get then cat. Like, this is pretty darn straightforward compared to whatever nonsense is in that tutorial. So I'm going to try to, we'll see here. I think we're going to, ditch this nonsense. Firebase helper, get out of here. Admin. Okay, well, maybe try that later. Admin.firestore, DB, cool. So we'll do app.get / and then this is request response. How do we do it? Like that, usually. And then a function, lambda thingy. And then we have a body of this function. I'm going to paste here, return database.collection. Let's say this is / messages. And I'm doing single quotes, I guess. So I just want to make it consistent. Nope. And this is an interesting little query thing where, what is it? Text. What is this? Capital. You put the double equals in quotes here. So this is like if it was a cities or something, it would be, yeah. So you do your where. This is like a SQL where, but it's an interesting little convention. When you want to filter it, you say the column that you want to filter, the operator. So this could be probably a greater than or less than. and then the thing you want to compare it with. So in this case, it's double equalsing a capital column of every row with this JavaScript value true, and it will filter and only return the stuff that matches the where. So it's very similar to a SQL where clause for filtering, but I guess it's its own little syntax. And then the .get is going to say, okay, load. We're basically preparing a query here, and then we're saying run this query, go to the database, get the stuff that matches it. And that's going to be an asynchronous thing, so we get a promise. We can probably do async. Let's just make this a little nicer. Const records equals here dot get, and we're going to await this. And we're going to say const. We'll do a try. I'm doing it await style because I like it. We'll say catch error, and console.log will go up in here. And here, query snapshot. Okay, so we're going to say return records, I guess. Oh no, we need, sorry, this is res usually, right? req, res dot send. And we'll send back the records. And I think that's it. Okay, so we have the request value is never read. That's fine. TypeScript will alert us to this. We should name this the same thing. See, TypeScript is nice. It's telling you this doesn't exist because you named it differently here. It's going to catch a lot of little bugs, and it's going to make your life a little bit easier most of the time. Now, sometimes you'll have a fun problem, and you'll probably want to reach out for help. But most of the time, you'll be happy about it. I wonder if doing an underscore makes it shut up. No. Oh, not all code paths return a value. Right. See, another TypeScript thing. Remember when we had the server running and it's like, it just sits there and it never returns? Well, that's because in our catch, we don't actually send anything. So this is telling us not all code paths return a value. That's pretty nice to know that we have to do this right away, and we don't have to wonder why didn't we connect. Why can't we connect to this endpoint because it errored? So we're going to say just send back the error. This is not a good idea usually security-wise because this leaks information if somebody is, but we're in development, so we're going to just send back the error. Okay, so everything's pretty tidy and it's working. The last thing we have to, well, it's checking, it's type checking, right? We're not, we don't have any obvious errors. This here is going to be not used, but I'll put this after a comment just so we have it if we need it. Text equals hello. Let's say this would filter to every message that simply says hello. Okay, so let's check this questionable tutorial again and see deploying to Firebase rewrites. Oh man, see, look at this. This is because we made the two main and the app and this absurd. Okay. I doubt this is going to work. I wonder if we should just go for Firebase functions here, because hosting and functions. Let's see what happens if we run Firebase Deploy. Appears to be nothing. Or it worked. I don't know. What's going on here? Nothing? Just prints nothing. Oh, there it is. Using stale data because the host is inaccessible. Oh, that's wonderful. Finish running pre-deploy. All necessary APIs are enabled. Adding files to version, uploading new files. File upload complete. Releasing new version. Oh boy, what is going to be at this address? I have absolutely no clue what we just did really, but let's go to what it says. Firebase hosting setup complete. So we have the hello world message. How about messages? Does that work? No. What can I do with Firebase hosting? Oh man. We'll figure this out. We're pretty close, I think. So there's this here. Let's look at our change set here for index. So I'm going to GitHub tab. We'll see what we changed. Now this is what it just printed out first, right? I think we might not even need Express. So a lot of this might have been just, not necessary, but we still are going to need this collection DB stuff. Let's see what we got. I'm going to just basically revert most of this file, but do it sort of manually. So I'm copying out of that, and we'll put this at the bottom for right now. I've already got the functions imported, so it's complaining. I'm going to uncomment this. Functions HTTPS on request. Request response. Hello from Firebase. Well, here's what I'm going to try to do. Comment everything out here. Comment these out because they're not used anywhere. And we'll try running Firebase Deploy again and see if that changes what we're seeing. Because maybe this goes on to that app, and then we can sort of work from there and sort of reverse engineer this because, maybe we should have looked for a Firebase functions tutorial. But it's like 3 things. We just have to get lucky that someone wrote a tutorial for the 3 things, or we're going to be digging around in the documentation for a bit, which is not great because it's really not very good documentation. But yeah, using TypeScript for cloud functions. Maybe this is exactly what we should have done. Yeah, this is probably what we should have done. Using existing, migrating, emulating. Okay, never mind. This is pretty terrible because it doesn't have a, where's the database? How do you put the data stuff into this project? Yeah. Okay, creating a Node.js 8 function hello world. Hey, that sounds correct. See, this is hello world. We exported it, so this is good. Well, I don't know. My internet's been complaining a little bit. I hope it's still, I hope I'm still online, and I hope nobody's gone to sleep yet. But okay. See, this is how it goes. You find a lot of dead ends, and you have to wait for the silly computer to do its job, which it never does as fast as you want. All right. Function URL, look at this one. Okay, so we are getting somewhere. We have our main URL and this function URL, which I'll bet if we go to this, we'll see that message. Hello from Firebase, there it is. Okay, so this probably still is the same exact thing. Yeah, okay, so great. I'm starting to get a sense of this. This is starting to make a little bit of sense. So we want to try, next thing we're gonna try, we're gonna add a new file to SRC. We're gonna call this, let's say messages, right? Because what it might be doing is saying that everything you export, every time you export something from something in here, it's just gonna go slurp all that up and make one function per file, which means that basically every file becomes an API endpoint, and you don't need Express, you just need to do something that sort of matches this on request thing. And then when you see hello world is what you name the thing, maybe not exactly, but maybe you export a bunch of named stuff from this index and everything turns into a path like this, right? So this turns into this. So if we had messages, we have, we can go like this. Maybe this new file isn't necessary yet. We'll try to figure out maybe how to split it into files later. But I think it's the name of the export. See, this is not the default. There's no default here. So it definitely knows the name of it. And I think it's using that, yeah. It's not the default export. So it's a named export. So we can export many things from this one index file. And that's probably how we do our endpoints. We export each one. So we're going to say export const messages equals functions.https.onRequest. A little bit weird, but this inner part is basically identical to what Express does out of the box. So this should be pretty easy. Once you get used to this, this is what you have to write instead of app.get or app.whatever. And I think, is there on get? No, there's just request. You might have to check whether it's a get and everything inside, so you don't do .get. So it might be a little different, but you still have request, you still have response. And here, we're gonna say something from in here. Can we do async? We better be able to do async, or else this will be annoying. Okay, async, and we're gonna copy basically everything from in here as is. Okay, DB, where's DB? DB's up here. Okay. We don't need any of this Express stuff. We do need DB. Typescript complains, what's admin? I can't find admin. Well, admin, there's this line, which initializes it. And then there's also importing admin here. These two we can probably get rid of because we're not going to need Express. Admin initialize app, admin Firestore. This I'm not going to delete quite yet, but we probably will delete it. So messages, we get the messages, we send the records. we catch the error. And it's using the same thing. Let's see what happens if we do Firebase Deploy. Now, there's got to be a way to do this locally. So there's like, you know, we don't have to deploy it every time. But as you can see, what this is showing us is that it's pretty darn easy to get something up on the real internet. Anybody can go to this link. And once we have the messages one, I'll publish this in the channel. So, yeah. Cool. So this will be checked into GitHub. Slightly roundabout way here. We probably do not need express or body parser. We don't need this nonsense. We want these two. This is what it started with. So this is pretty nice. Typescript config, we can keep the no implicit any if we want. That's, you know, do what you want with this, because this is, if you leave it true, which is the default, I think, it's going to always throw up errors and warnings, or it's going to make noise whenever you have something imported that doesn't have types. And you might want that. You might actually want it to call out. And then you have to make the decision. Do you continue using something that doesn't have the types correctly? Or do you sort of stray off from it's a trade-off. It's going to be figuring out the types is necessary on one hand, but having no guidance as to whether your variables exist or anything like that is on the other hand. So you really have to make that call yourself. I'm going to leave this as true right now. But if I start to see a bunch of any's because I forgot about it, that's bad. That's bad. On a certain project, you want everything to be typed because it will make your life better over the long term. That's the idea. So if we hover over different stuff, like here, look at this, functions HTTP request. That's got a type, that's good. This is a functions response, amazing. This thing is a Firestore, that's good. So this tells us, this is great because this means, even though we are allowed to use any, almost nothing is any here, or nothing is any. So if we do db dot, it knows all the things we can do on that database. So you can say like, oh, collection, that's a real thing. This, it doesn't know. It knows that it has to be a string, but it doesn't know whether that exists. So you're on your own there. And then dot, here's all the other stuff. Get, select, blah, blah, blah. This is what TypeScript gets you. Okay, so we've deployed this. We have our messages function. And what does it do? It returns a bunch of stuff. Interesting. Firestore settings, serializer, chat room. Well, it's definitely doing something related to our project, and it's not erroring. That's cool. But where's our data? It's probably an empty list, right?
Probably an empty list, but this is probably that query snapshot they were mentioning before.
Got it. So let's see what we can do with records here. Docs of the document changes since the last, docs. An array of all the documents in the query snapshot. That sounds right. It's a property. See, it's a property, it's not a function, so we don't have to run it with the parentheses. And this is getting a little tedious, but we'll deploy it one more time. And meanwhile, I'm gonna look like, how do you do local Firebase? Run functions locally. Blah, 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 blah. Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore emulator, Shazam. So we need to figure out what is the Cloud Firestore emulator, because I think that's what runs locally. Full example of using the Firebase emulator suite, see the quick start sample. Oh, and it's just a GitHub project, wonderful. Firestore emulator. What the heck? What is this? JavaScript, TypeScript quick start. This is not very easy to understand. Run npm install and make sure you have a recent version of the Firebase CLI tool. Set up the Firestore emulator. Okay, so really this is like, there's no automagic thing. Maybe this works. Firebase setup emulators Firestore. This, yeah, don't do any of this. This is no good. Okay. Cancel. I'm gonna put a bunch of warning emojis on this one, not delete it. What's the little no entry? No pedestrians, that's good enough. No entry sign. Okay, don't do that. This is Firebase Deploy. And this one, let's see what happens when we do this. But first, let's check, what? Where's my, why didn't it publish where the functions are this time? Oh, deploying functions. No, functions. Why didn't it put the functions? Successful update app. Oh, create. So why does, what? How are you going to find this later? Oh, this is horrible. You have to save this the first time you do it because it's never going to tell you again where the heck it is. So have fun with that, but definitely save these. I'm going to, put this here. When it prints out like where the function is, write that down somewhere because good luck finding it later. It doesn't print it for you.
That's super helpful.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a link in your web interface.
Maybe. Let's go to here. Hosting, open hosting. Now, see, this is for your static site. This is for your React or whatever, probably, right?
Oh, yeah.
Project console. Maybe this console would like have a list of the functions you have deployed, maybe. Let's see. Functions. Hey, cool. So if you lose them, you can go to this Firebase thing, go to functions, and there's the two that we've deployed, and you can always go to that. This is the place that it printed out originally. So this one we can probably get rid of, but we'll leave it for now. Anyway, if we go to this, where I posted in the channel, we see empty messages array. Amazing. So we're like pretty darn close to having it all working, or mostly working. So we don't need this. We don't need this. We really don't need much of anything because the TypeScript thing is going to basically prompt us with everything that DB can do. We know that we have this collection messages and that's working. So hopefully that works for everybody. But if it says something like can't find messages collection, maybe you have to somehow create it first. Oh, we didn't create it. So it just magically exists. Whenever you call it by its name, it just magically exists, which is pretty cool. Now, REQ here, we might need to be able to say REQ.method. Yeah, so this here might be get or post or whatever. And we'll say console.log. and we'll figure out how to run this locally because we're going to want to be able to develop, of course. This here is maybe what we do. Firebase setup emulators Firestore. And let that run a little bit. Firebase emulators start only Firestore. Maybe that's okay. So I don't really understand. Like, let's try writing some simple tests for our security rules. What? That's what it says? That's the documentation? Absurd. Okay. So there's got to be some way to get this emulator thing running. And like, you have the option of just saying, nope, not even going to use the emulator. Just Firebase Deploy, wait a little extra time, and it's always on the internet. And I mean, that's a perfectly valid thing to do. It's going to be slow. You know, if you are working on this for many months, you might start to get very frustrated with the fact that deploying has to upload everything, and you can't really debug it. You know, you can't console log easily unless there's a way to go to your function and just see its logs or something. Let's see. Go to console. Chat room project. Functions. View logs, look at that. So you can click over here and say view logs. So you, in theory, you could debug your whole thing just probably having this page open. So look at this. Let's try dropping a console.log in here and see what happens. We're going to log the request method. And I'm sure the emulator thing is worth setting up, but maybe we'll say, let's figure that out later. We don't really need it. You can just sort of use the magic deploy, which has the additional benefit of as soon as you get it working, it's live, it's online. It doesn't have its own domain name. Now you're going to have to figure out how to wire up your DNS records if you want this to be at, you know, gus.best is the one I downloaded the domain name. But if you want that to point to Firebase, we have to do some extra setup. But it's live, it's on the internet, and it would be usable. Would you like to proceed with deletion? Yes. So I deleted the hello world function. So it's going to say delete that function on Firebase. Deleting function, cool. And what I'm going to do now is, regardless of whether the console logging works, this is in decent shape. So I'm going to commit this to GitHub. Let's just make sure we don't have any junk left over from that other nonsense Express thing. Express is still a really good project. It's not like Express is bad. It's just, it's not necessary here, I guess. And, you know, I'm going to just cancel this just in case that has some junk in it. Express is not necessary here, and the tutorial that mashes them together is just pretty bad. So there's probably a better way to do it, but we're not going to bother right now. So maybe there's a reason to use Express with Firebase, but they make this part pretty darn easy to use, and we might as well take advantage of it. So this is the advantage of, you know, serverless, is that you get them to host everything. You get basically your app deployed, very similar to Heroku, but a little bit easier because, you You don't have to, it's not using Git. Heroku, it's sort of bundled with Git. You have to know how to, commit and push and things like that to Heroku's remote. Not remember that Git push Heroku is how you do that. With this, it's like Firebase Deploy. It's all fairly easy to use. It's not very well documented, but it's pretty easy to use.
It's kind of nice. It's like you're just writing a config file.
Yeah, and we haven't. Let's try to add users to this and see how that goes, and then I think we'll call it for today. But this is pretty darn straightforward. So we've updated this here, and let's reload this and see if our log shows anything. 12:52. Anything? Maybe refresh. There's a pause, so I feel like this is live. Oh, here we go. Request method get. Hey, there's our log. So you'll see them with this blue info thing if you do console.log. And they're right here. It'll take a couple seconds. Everything's a little bit slower when you're doing it live, but this is pretty much, you could absolutely develop it right here by deploying it like this. It's a little, again, it's going to take a little longer. Figuring out the emulator, we might not have time for that today. But that's another, if you want to run it very much locally, then that's probably a better option. Okay. So, and the method here is all capitals get like this. So if you wanted to, basically, if you want to have gets and puts and posts and things like that, you're going to do just an if statement in here. So I don't know if there's an on get, on put, and every function is its own endpoint. So you'd want to say if request.method equals get. And inside here is going to be all the stuff that's, and you can either put the try catch inside each one or probably wrap the whole thing in a try catch. Error doing something with documents. It's not necessarily a get, but all errors will be down here. And then we'll say else if request.method equals post. We'll do our post in this one. So let's try to figure this out right from TypeScript. Now it's warning us again, not all code paths return a value because we have a second branch here, which we definitely want to return something from at the end of it. So we'll say const new record equals await. Let's. I'm going to call this query actually. Query. And maybe it'll be similar here. db dot collection. So we need the same thing. Messages dot add. Look at that. What is add? Add a new document to this collection with the specified data, assigning it a document ID automatically. Okay, that sounds correct. An object containing the data for the document and returns a promise. Amazing, with a document reference. So this is not a query reference or a query or whatever. This is a document reference. Whatever, I'll still call it query. One other thing is, you see, look, we got some duplication here. So I'm going to actually, outside, before this whole if statement, I'm going to say const messages equals this. So then you can just say messages. And TypeScript is going to remember that the type of this is the collection. So you'll still get all the same help down here. We'll say messages.add. This is going to be request.body. And body, look at this. We have body and we have raw body. And this one maybe might be JSON. I'm not sure. Let's see. Is there a JSON? No. Body is any. So we've lost all of our TypeScript help. That's great. Let's look up real quick. Firebase functions request body JSON. Based on the content type header it made available via your HTTP functions arguments. Okay, so this is why body is any, is because it can actually vary at runtime. So I'm wondering, like, you probably want this here to be checked in every function, right? I mean, this is, you could cause an error by setting this header to text plain when you post. And so you really probably have to check this manually, that the header matches this and that it's going to be an actual JSON object, not any. So let's see if there's an easy way to do that. Otherwise, you know, it'll just be an error unless you put the right header in, which is okay. So we're going to say, yeah, await messages dot, or maybe, okay, here we're going to say return res.send query.doc, maybe, or who knows. Parent, collection, create. Query is a document reference, and it has, let's see what happens here. Deploy. Why does it still say, oh, look at this. So this here, it still says not all code paths return a value. And it is actually, our TS lint here is breaking. And this doesn't help you at all with like why it broke down here. Oh, shadowed name, what? What is this? It doesn't help you at all, but if you do
your export const messages on line 7.
Yeah. But it doesn't print Y, and Y is because it's got a warning that says not all code paths return a value. But it's not printing that here. So so you can do like TS lint. If you have TS lint enabled, like you can just delete this file, which will be like, you know, probably mean it won't run TS lint, or I think. Or is there, yeah, lint. Okay, so you can do here, we can do this. Either delete this, or you can do npm run lint, and it should print out a little bit more. Nope, it's just crap. Shadowed name messages. That must be the linter error. I don't understand what shadowed name means at all. But in any case, you can see there's an error here. Not all code paths return a value. This might be a reason not to use linting, but we're going to say return res.send. No, send status. Cool. This is perfect. This is what we want. We want the status. We want 405 because that's the correct code here. This is the method is none of these, so the method is not allowed. And that's what 405 means. Method is not allowed. So that's very convenient. Now, who cares what's inside the message because it's a 405. Everything should understand a 405 means it's not the correct method. All right, let's try deploying one more time, and it should work this time. That linting is kind of silly, but I guess if you're doing linting, what? Same problem. Shadowed name messages. What does that mean?
I think it's because you're naming your collection and the same variable name as your export.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe messages collection or something.
Yeah, but then it's no shorter than this. All right.
That's true.
Here, I'll call it collection. Thanks. So that didn't help here, but that's what shadowed name means. Got it. And it even prints the line number of one of them, right? 9. Yeah. So it printed out the line where we did the duplicate. So okay, got it. It didn't underline it, which is annoying. But maybe you don't need to add this. Maybe it will lint okay. But let's see if it lints okay without it. Yeah, it's going to let you do that, even if it's got the warning. So the linter doesn't help with the warning. Nope. Cool. Not all code paths return a value. It won't even let you deploy it if it's in a state where you could have a timeout, an infinite, wait, because it's never going to send anything unless if the method is anything else. So that's cool. That'll save you from some problems. But in any case, we'll add the else to catch everything else, and this should be our complete endpoint. Now, after this, let's real quick try to add the user. The user thing, the authorization or whatever it is, and mess with that a little. I mean, if you want to just fake users or not even have them log in and have it be a wide open application, then you probably don't even need any of that. But it's good to add if you can, because then you'll get some experience with it and you'll be able to sort of showcase that you actually have authentication, which will be a plus for your demo. Okay, I'm gonna check this in, assume it works. Complete messages endpoint with get and post.
All right, Gus, I'm heading out for now. This has been good stuff.
Cheers. Thanks for stopping by and for helping out. And this is pretty cool. I kind of like this. I might use this for something.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into it.
Yeah. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. We have committed. It's up on the sandbox, and it should be deployed as well. So if we get messages here, we'll still have an empty list. But if I copy this and I go to Postman or Insomnia, whichever one you prefer, and let Postman start up, do its thing. Fastening seatbelts. So we're going to say test Firebase. Look at this. I can't even see the rest of the interface. Nice going. Okay, that works. Cool. So we paste this in here. We have our messages. We do a get, and we'll see the empty list. Right. Now we can do a post. And in here, we're going to say body, binary, no, wait, raw JSON. And here we're going to say text 1, 2, 3, user ID 1. So text should actually be text, maybe. Test 1, 2, 3. Now the thing is, at this point, Firebase has no sense of like what is allowed in the message. A message can be any JSON you want, and it's just going to save it, and then it'll return it. And so, you know, this could be, you know, an array probably, which wouldn't make any sense really. So we'll figure that out in a little bit, but we get back this thing. That's the document thing, and that's terrific. It doesn't give us the actual contents of the message right back. You know, I was hoping like we'd have somewhere in here would be, you know, so you could print back the message in the success, but we don't really need to do that. I mean, you can probably get away with just saying send status. And this would be a 200, which is like successful. So this is successful. This is the error. We don't need query here, so we do just await it and then send 200, and we're good. This case, we do need to send the documents there. Okay, but in any case, now when we get, we should actually have messages. So this is a real database. Oh, that's wonderful. Where's the stuff? Okay. Oh boy, how do we read this thing? This is what the document is. It's an absolute monster. And here's our stuff, but there's our data, so it worked, but this is not helpful. We need to polish this up a little bit. Let's see, first of all, like what is entries? What is this? Query docs. Dot values returns an iterable of values in the array. So we have an array of returns an iterable of values in the array. Iterable iterator. Oh, geez, this is fun. Let's try a map. So we'll say message, and we're going to map each message, their document, you know, and we'll call this doc, and it'll be doc dot data. Returns all fields in the document as an object. That's what we want. Okay, so we'll deploy one more time. I will optimistically check into GitHub. Nicer document return data. Okay. Yeah, okay, so this is, you know, we're doing pretty well here. Let's do one more thing. Let's look up how to add users. And then I think this is pretty much everything you would need to do the complete server with Firestore function like this. So you basically, every time you export something that uses this pattern, it's going to be a different function that Firebase hosts, and when you deploy it, it'll be live. And you have to get the method like this, so a get and a post on the same endpoint. This is how you create new ones. This is how you read the whole list. You could probably have several files, and in the source here you have it. It could export messages from one file, export, another endpoint. Let's maybe do that. And then in the index, you just import and re-export them probably. And then I think Firebase would pick them up then. Either that, or you can just export them from anywhere. But I think you'd have to have like separate files that export, and then this thing imports everything together and then exports everything. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so we have here, let's try getting one more time. Null. That's not good. Huh. So here's let's try Node. I wonder if we can mess with this right from the console. Nope. Const functions equals require Firebase functions. We're in Node land here. We don't have TypeScript. Oh, initializing. Oh, geez. Okay. Huh. Firebase config and G-Cloud project environment variables are missing. All right. Well, let's see. Firebase list documents. Well, I really thought that would work. Oh, data is a function. Yep, okay. I think that's what we got wrong. That's good. It's simple. So if we did data again, see it's a purple box. That means it's a method or a function. It's a method on this object, right? The purple box means you got to run it. So we're going to run that. And we will deploy one more time. And I think that'll be it. Okay. Meanwhile, let's start looking at adding users. We're gonna, I don't know if we really need all of this documentation right now. Oh, authentication. Maybe there's like a quick start here. Introduction, users, extend with cloud functions. I'm sort of, trying to do this real quick, but create a function that triggers when a Firebase user is created using the onCreate. Now, I think let's go a little bit. Web. This is a lot. Sign in with a pre-built UI. Add Firebase Authentication. Include Firebase UI via one of the following options. Set up sign-in methods. This is going to be annoying. It thinks there's errors in my JSON. What? Oh, comments are not permitted in JSON. They're correct about that. Technically, you're not supposed to have comments in JSON. Okay. So we have our functions folder. What is all that? Why do we have firebase.json here? I guess, so this here has public build package. I don't quite understand how we're going to get the front end and stuff like that working. But that's what we're here for. We're going to try to do that. And I think I'm going to try to make it a React app, if possible. In the Firebase Console, open the authentication section. Wow, this is super confusing. I mean, I guess it has to be because doing auth for real is super hard. So like this looks nice if we can get this to work. Sign in with a pre-built UI. Add Firebase Authentication to your web application. I think we already did that, but I will check. Create a Firebase project, we got that. Project overview page. Add your web app to it. Let's see what we've got in our console here. It's got to be this project, and then authentication is one of the things. Set up sign-in method. Whoa, so you can do single sign-on with all of this. Email password. Let's start with a simple one, email password. Enable. Password list sign-in. Let's not get fancy here. Let's just do the most basic first one. Email password enabled. Okay. Authorized domains. So this here is where it installed the app. So this should all work. You know, this is going to basically allow you to control, you know, what people are allowed to sign into. One account per email address. Yes. Manage sign up quota. Okay. Usage. No, this is how much you can do for free, I guess. Users. Add user. We already did this, I think. Add Firebase SDKs and initialize Firebase. From hosting yours, using module bundlers. Here we go. Okay. Cool. So we already have a lot of this. Well, sort of. Wow, this is interesting. So are they saying that on your client application, this replaces fetch? Like we might be like, well, you don't use fetch to talk to your API. You just use this magic thing, even though we just set up functions which have an API, but maybe it's a convenient way to do it. Yeah, this auth thing might be a little bit beyond what I can figure out today. Firebase.auth. This is extremely, like most of this documentation, it's just like everything and the kitchen sink. Oh, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, on the other hand, if you want to do, so there's really no good middle ground here between crappy tutorials and Firebase auth functions React. Oh, another questionable tutorial from Germany. 5 minutes, huh? Maybe 10. All right, I like this person. This looks correct, okay. What's this thing? Oh, it doesn't even say where it's coming from. So I'll bet this tutorial is pretty good, actually, because it is from this Firebase developers. I think this might be the official account of the Firebase people, right? So, although maybe it's not, who knows? No, it's independent. Suspicious, but maybe good. I'm not sure about this whole, I don't know. If someone wants to go through this, maybe they should do that and try it, see how it goes. But maybe I'll try it. I'll try it right now. Fine. So we're going to say create React app, React Firebase Authentication. Yeah, maybe. Oops. I'm going to go into my chat room Firebase folder outside this functions. So this basically, functions basically means the server. This is everything that your server needs. So we're going to say npx create React app chat client. And I'm going to call this Um, I'm going to say, yeah, this is just called chat room. I don't know what to call this. Chat room client, maybe. I'm going to, I'll call it chat room client. And this really, I want to rename this to chat room server because functions, that's so ambiguous and confusing. Very silly. It's branding nonsense. But where in this project is it like, it's also possible that it's just magic and you have to call it functions or else Firebase won't work at all. What's resource directory? I'm going to look for oh, this is ridiculous. So I'd want to move this functions folder, but I'm worried that there's some magic implicit thing that's like you have to do a setting to say what folder it's in, you know? And who knows where the heck we'd ever find how to do that. So I'm too scared to move this functions folder. And of course, React is still building. Oh, covering only Firebase hosting. Lovely. Yeah, this documentation is pretty much garbage. So much documentation is absolutely awful. But like, where is a list of the things that you can put in this config file? As an example, a counter example, look at this. Here's the TypeScript site. And project configuration, tsconfig.json. Schema can be found here. Look at this. Here's everything. It's like you can import, you can look at absolutely everything. And the editor will prompt you for what's allowed and what's not allowed. It's far better. I guess this actually only has some common stuff too. Maybe this isn't great either. Nothing, all documentation is terrible. But this is, I mean, man, this is like, it specifies which files and settings from your project directory are deployed. We're not going to tell you how to specify, but it implies or there's got to be some way to specify here, but we're not going to tell you what it is. Ridiculous. Maybe this resource. Nope. Functions folder. There is no way to change this. So you have a stupid folder. If you want it all to be in the same thing, you have a stupid folder with their stupid brand name for their stupid server. This is the server, and it's called functions. It's the dumbest name ever in the history of a project. They're calling a server, they're calling it functions. Like, every programming language has functions. Every single thing you could possibly do with programming has functions. And they're making an unchangeable folder called functions, which means this is your server. I cannot believe how stupid that is. That's absolutely terrible decision. All right, well, I'm going to call it client and functions because apparently this is just ridiculous. All right. We call this stupid thing client. All right. So we have client and we have functions. Now build is not, I don't think build is going to be we want to get rid of this one because our client is going to have its own build, right? It's going to be package JSON, nope, Firebase JSON. See, we have public is build. We're going to want to make this client build because then if we go into our create React app client, we go cd client, we do npm run build. This is going to create a folder here called build. And that's what we want Firebase to set up. If we're doing all this together, we're going to want Firebase to do that, to look here for what it's doing. And you can set this one, no problem. You can't set this one apparently because they're idiots. All right. Let's try Firebase Deploy. See what happens. So I guess Firebase Deploy, you can do this from basically any of these folders and it deploys everything. It's like deploy your server, deploy your client. It is very convenient. I mean, there's a reason I'm tolerating all this nonsense with horrible documentation and really just garbage conventions. And that's because, you know, if this all works, it's actually much quicker to get something up and running than just about any other option. And I think I'm going to check in. If this works, I'll check this in as adding the React project to it. Right now, it's just a totally, you know, boilerplate, just absolutely normal React project. I'm going to get rid of this git ignore because we already have one in the Firebase folder. Here, I'm going to leave these here because this is like a separate, you know, you want your NPM, you might be working in this folder, the client folder, or the functions folder. Each one has their own of all these configs. And they have apparently functions as its own Firebase RC, which is identical to the one outside, and who the hell knows why. Client is just, it's a React app. So, okay. Let's see what goes here when we see it. Anything? Hey, look at that. There's our React app. So I'm going to check this in before I break it. Add a client React app. "13 unsaved files." Wait a minute, what's that? What in the, what is this? A whole bunch of type files that it opened up? Maybe close all editors. Don't save. So this should all be get ignored anyway, and you'd have to run npm install in both this folder, the client folder, and the functions folder to get, you know, because these are not going to be checked into GitHub. Okay. But that's cool. So Firebase, you have to build it manually, right? And maybe there's one thing we can do to say functions pre-deploy. Is there a pre-deploy here maybe? You know, perhaps we could do a pre-deploy here. Is there linting in our client? No. Let's see what happens if we do this. pre-deploy. So this would be npm prefix client. Let's see if that one run build. Let's see if that handles everything. So let's say if we delete this build folder and we just do Firebase Deploy, is it going to run our React app build script because of this? I'm just guessing at this, although this section seemed to be actually documented. So maybe we could find the documents for that. Hey, look at this. Prefix client run build. Excellent. All right, so this will allow us to, automatically run React build when running Firebase Deploy. Okay, so this is starting to look, pretty nice for a complete thing. Now, of course, the authentication is still, that's going to be an interesting thing. Let's just try one of those, just copy and pasting something here. We have client, we have public, and this has our index.html. And this is the actual, the content which is next to the React app, or which contains the actual React script. So see, we're saying something, something, something. Where's the bundle? There should be a React JavaScript bundle somewhere. No script. Where's it? Maybe it inserts the bundle URL at the end. Who knows? So here's what I'm going to try to do. Let's go find that thing where it's like Firebase Auth. For web. Let's see. In the head tag of your page, add these things. Install Firebase UI and its dependencies via npm using the following command. Oh, wait, no. Require the following modules within your source files. Oh boy, Bower. Nobody's used Bower in 8 years. So All right. Well, we're gonna go for this, but I think I'm gonna cut it off after about 15 minutes, even if it doesn't work. So it's possible that we will leave the code unstable. But I'm not going to check it in, or I might make a branch or check it in somewhere else if it doesn't work. So it's unstable. What's on GitHub should be stable. So it should work. It should do everything but user auth, and it should have the React app. So the React app, you're gonna, if you don't do user auth, you would do, you'd basically add your components and your you could say const user set user equals or messages set messages, and you can do this with whatever state management. You're going to have a state. This would be use state, and this would basically, you'd say use effect, maybe, or whatever it is that you do to initially load, and we'd say when it loads, we'll say message set fetch. We'll do this real quick before the user thing, because this is how you tie them together. We'll say fetch, and I'll put the where's this endpoint with the messages? This thing. We'll fetch this, and what is this? Init request init or undefined? I forget how to use fetch. I think it's a promise. No, what is this? Oh, it's a then, right? Dot then. Oh, and you have to do const fetch equals const response const data equals response. We'll do a wait, and we make this async. You can't do an async effect? No. Okay. This is TypeScript given some convenient things, which are very confusing errors. Type this, equal to this, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll just do the fetch, then const message URL. Now, obviously, you're going to want to organize this a little better. Have your actual URLs, all that kind of stuff. This we can just do. So here we can do set messages data. We'll just do that. So we set our messages here once we get our response. And then here, we'll say, under the header, we'll say our initial value for the messages is empty array. And down here, we'll say messages.map and map each message to, let's make it a list item with the text of the message. And outside here, we'll make an unordered list. So we're going to map our messages that we set up here to a list of messages. We'll try deploying one more time. I'm not sure what that, do we still have that script in the header, in the index? I'm not sure what that's going to do with nothing else. I think you have to like use, I don't think we want this. We want to put the imports into our React script and then call like Firebase something something in our in our component somehow. Yeah, this probably broke because line 31. Expected an assignment or a function call and instead saw an expression. Oh, because we have curly braces here. See, TypeScript is helping us out. We have the curly braces here. You'd need the return keyword because we've opened a block. So we can just do it in one line like this. We're going to map each message to, oh, and I'm missing these two because that was dim. So messages is an array of never. Now this is TypeScript being a little annoying because we've put the state here as the empty array. It says, oh, I know what the type of this. It's always an empty array. There's no possible way there could be anything in that array. So when you try to map this, it's going to say, well, there's never anything in this array. You can't map it to anything. So to get that to go away, we're going to say array as any, which is like the most basic way. You might have to wrap this in parentheses, but this is the one thing you really have to be able to add to TypeScript sometimes to make it work. At the very least, you just say, go away, don't worry about the type of this. I don't have time to do this and learn this right now. It's anything, deal with it. So that's what that is. And then here, parameter message implicitly as any type. Well, it's getting all right. It's not being nice. I'm going to add the no implicit any to this too. No. And then maybe it'll shut up. Did you not see React? I just said no implicit any. Let's try one more time. Oh. We could say array any here. And then it'll at least know it's an array. I don't know why it was complaining before, but this is the flip side of using TypeScript. You might have to make it happy by saying certain things are good enough for it to deal with it. And you can also do message as any, like in here probably. No, maybe not. Oh, message colon any. And then it would also shut up. I'll leave both of those in there. They're kind of redundant, but actually, I'll just do that. So the colon is for like if it's an argument to a function, and the as any is a way to cast it in an expression. Okay. But let's see what it does if we, let's get the message here, first of all. Hey, there's our messages. So you might want an ID on the messages, stuff like that. Yeah, we're not going to bother with the user stuff right now because that is a little bit too much for one day. Where's our... we got an empty list down here. We have an error. Oh no, cores. Our best friend cores has come to ruin our day again. Wow. What a delightful problem. Firebase function cores. I mean, at least people have tried to do this before. You pretty much know, so. Wow. This is going to be just ruin the elegance of it. It's just going to be horrible. Cores, on request. Where's cores? Well, I've got some wonderful news for everybody. In order for it to work, you have to put two functions around every endpoint because it's stupid and cores is stupid. And that's how the internet works or how Firebase works or whatever. I'm not going to complain anymore. We'll just do it. We go back to functions, which means server. We go to index, and we're going to have to do this kind of cores thing. I'll leave this as this. Our old friend cores. Now, basically, you have to do this. What is it? Return cores. And your real function goes in here. And if this ruins the typings for everything, I'm going to be very mad. Oh, async. Oh, they survived. Hooray. Okay, so everything pretty much works the same. You still have your typings here. But you have to put this extra line around everything, around everything. So that's pretty stupid, but that's all right. And here's the function. With cores. Here we go. Super fun. Ooh, I didn't install cores. cd functions npm install save cores. I'm also going to delete the build folder because this is going to get a little annoying. And we need to check in that I'm deleting the build folder. But then I'm going to add it to the git ignore too, so that we don't have a build folder at all. Or so that it ignores it the next time I create the git ignore. Okay, we added cores, we added this nonsense, we added this, deleted all this stuff. Tsconfig has that. Add cores, remove build folder. And then I'm going to do the deploy. And I guess you can do this from any folder. It's the same wherever you run it from. Because I think this will still deploy our client. Yep. And while that's going, I'm going to say, see, here's our build folder back. I'm going to go right click. Nope. I'm going to go to GitHub and say, all of these are in the build folder. So I'm going to highlight all of them and say, add file to git ignore. Or actually, I'll do it manually because it's a little simpler. Git ignore, whoops. Git ignore. Can you actually do git ignore at this level? I'm not sure. This will be client build. Okay, so I'll update the git ignore so it won't do that. Add client build folder to git ignore. All right, functions did not deploy properly. Server error socket hangup. Oh boy. Let's try one more time. No, this was from an hour ago. Sorry, Linda. Yeah, I think that was it. Come on, work. All right, that time it worked. So here we go. Look at that. There is our Firebase message on our React app, all in the same folder. That's pretty cool. All right, I'm happy with that. I think that's it for today. No auth, maybe we'll try adding auth if anyone wants to try that tutorial, figure out a way to get the client, to have the auth and the whatever. I might try that out a little bit. It's probably easier if we actually know how to do it. It's probably easier than, doing your own salting and everything, but it's not something, that's a 5-minute project. So we'll try that next time, I guess. Right now we have the server and the database basically in this silly named folder called functions. We have the React client in the client folder. And we have our Firebase whatever, which whenever we run Firebase Deploy from anywhere in this project, it's going to build both of those and ship both of those. And it will host the static files that React builds. And it will also publish the functions, which are basically our API endpoints, our server endpoints, and the database that it's required. The Firestore is all built into there. We have our silly cores wrapper so that React can actually make requests across to this server. And we have our data being mapped. Now, perhaps, rather than having it just say collection.add whatever's in the request.body, you may want to say if request.body.id, if type of this is not equal to number, maybe, then do like return res.send status 400, right? That's an error. And then if type of request.body.user ID is not equal to a number. Also return this is how you can do some very, very, very crude validation. Now, there's probably a better way to very crude validation. I'll put them all on the same line like this. So we have just a bunch of silly if statements that are going to return 400. So it's really, we're calling this send status, which is important, but we're also returning so that they immediately exit. And we're going to say if type of request.body.text is not equal to string. Return. And you might want these to be a little more descriptive and say, hey, you know, this needs to be a string rather than just saying 400, 400. No, you're basically just not giving them any. But at least this is going to prevent someone from adding junk data to your collection. And there may be a way to have the collection, let's see. Maybe there's a much easier way to do this. Data validation. Maybe I should have searched this before making some very crude method here. Whoa. Ooh, it's some magic stuff. Security rules. Use existing data in security rules. Data validation. Okay, this is, yeah, that's security. I just want regular validation. So I guess you could go to that one place somewhere around, let's see. Where's like security? Storage? What the heck is storage? Is this Firestore? Nope. Hosting, functions, database. Where's my Firestore? Cloud Firestore. Oh, okay. Okay, so the two versions, they both call them both databases. Very confusing. So rules. So here's our here's some rules. Gee, this is fun. Simulator. Cool. So create. Wow. Build document. What in the world is this? So I guess you could do validation somehow here, like allow write if, and then a bunch of validation rules. But that just seems ridiculous. If that's the only way to do it other than this, I'd probably prefer this. So very crude validation. And then we're going to say await collection.add. And rather than let them add anything, we're going to say, now this one, remember this one you're not going to allow people to add, right? I'm going to just say actually, we'll leave that out for now. Save allowed data. So we'll say ID. Actually, we don't need an ID. We'll just say text. That's it. Request body text. And this, making it an object like this, means that users can't set anything but text. And if we want this to have, for example, user ID, this wouldn't come from the request body because then anyone could claim to be any user they wanted. So you want this to be, I'm going to put 1 here, but I'll put a comment saying this value should come from authorization, from the authorized user. So whenever you figure out how to do authorization with users, this you'd want this to come from the authorized user. This should match the authorized user. You shouldn't be allowed to write it. And the only thing you should be allowed to add is text, right? So, so we're going to add that and then return a 200, meaning it was successful. If you hit this, you'll see a 400. And then, you know, again, this 1, this should be the authorized user. So I'll add this here just so we have some basic validation and that everything has a text so our React app will be able to understand it. So basic validation in post. And fine, we'll do one more thing. We will go to the React app. We'll get rid of this whole thing. I'll comment this out just in case you want to copy the styles for that. And we'll say input type text placeholder add message. And then we will also do input type button on click. And we'll say add so this is going to be fun because we're going to have to do some stateful React stuff. Editable React state, very fun. Value. So we have messages, set messages, and we have new message, set new message. And this will control our input. That's an empty string to start. We're going to say here, set new message. Oh, sorry. No, that's not how it works. We're going to do value new message on change e set new message e target value. And then for this button, we're going to say when you click that, now we'll put both of these in a div. And we'll say when you click the button, we're going to do create message with the new message value or save message. Okay, and this will be an empty, so this is a little Lambda thing. We don't have anything called save message yet. Typescript is like, you can't do this. there is no save message. And what we'll do here is sort of break the nice, clean, functional encapsulation of the component. Actually, how do we do this? Is there like a use callback or a use something, something, something? We'll just put it right in line here. So there's a lot of ways to do this with, you know, side effects and reducers and this and that. But we'll just make a function right here that's like fetch Gus messages URL, and we'll put this out here so that it's just called messages URL, and it's just a big old constant string. We're going to say method post the data, form data, body. Okay, this will be, we'll make it a little template string here, and we'll say text. Oh, this is JSON. So this is very crude, and I'm doing this very much in a hurry, but we're gonna try to get it to work. This, this little interpolator thing, and we do new message. Oh, and put quotes around it. So this is our JSON payload we have. Actually, this is a bad idea. That's a terrible way to do it. We're gonna say JSON.stringify and give it an actual object. Say text, new message. Cache credentials, destination, headers, and 16 more. What? I'm gonna say as any. And then we do our fetch again. So here's what I'll do one thing here. Const get messages function up here. And we're going to pass this, we're going to inject the set messages function, or the set messages function, yeah. So we're going to pass that along to here. And we're going to use it down here. You need to give it an any type. Load messages, we'll call this. So this fetch messages, maybe. So here we just do fetch messages with handing it set messages. And that's all we have to do. In both cases, both when now we could add the message to our local collection and assume it's the same, but we might as well just say fetch messages again. After we're done we fetch the messages again. And after we fetch the messages, it should always set the messages, which should cause our thing to update, and we may see the new message. I'm also going to say, yes, this is the best app. It's so nice. Let's see, add message. And they loaded test message 2. We post it. And nothing happens. What happened to cores? Cores is failing again. It's wonderful. Too many requests. Well, this is where Firebase starts to be, oh, maybe we made an infinite loop of requests. We'll make this a button. Hmm. Maybe we don't need this at all. I forgot. Maybe I got these effects wrong. Because it did a lot of requests in a row and then started breaking. So I think they throttled the endpoint. That was fun. Okay, we're back. So the use effect might run every render, every something, because I didn't give it a list of dependencies, maybe. That's pretty, maybe dangerous. I'm not sure. So we'll set new message back to empty when we click here. This is getting a little tedious to wait for this. So the local thing might be nice, but you know, it's pretty nice. You know, having TypeScript catch most errors right away is pretty nice because then you don't have to do this over and over in the first place. So, you know. It happened again. Yep, it's just loading forever. Perhaps I'm going to not even, how do you do this use effect thing? I'm fatigued. I think I'm missing something obvious. There's dependencies for this, but in this case, what would the dependency be? And why would we? Why would it loop forever? Does use effect run after everything? Maybe it runs after every load. Let's see. Maybe having a dependency on messages will stop that. So this only reruns this if the reference here changes. So basically what that means is, you know, as long as this here hasn't changed, it will only run this once, I hope. I guess I'm not totally sure how useEffect does that. Let's see. Complete guide to useEffect. Wonderful. Oh, you need this empty. You need it to be empty, I guess. Got it. Okay, so we left out the empty dependencies, and that's a dangerous thing to do, because if you leave that out totally, I think it runs on every single render. It runs after every single render. I think what we did will work just as well, maybe, although it properly, I think, should be an empty array, no dependencies. It only runs once. Let's see, don't forget the empty array. Uh-oh, it's going forever. No, no, okay. So because we're setting the messages and it was a dependency, it probably, every time we set the messages changes, and then it fetches messages, and then blah, 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 and then we set the messages, and it's just that. So we want the empty array for only do it once. But in that case, then we're probably going to need this to also say fetch messages in here, because otherwise it will never update. So we'll say fetch the list of messages again. It's the easiest way to get the new value in here. And I'm going to abstract this so we have a message, post message, and we'll say whatever that value was. So we have fetch, we have message. And actually, what we could do is a pretty nice thing here, like, no, we won't. No, never mind. This will be text. And we put text in the body here. It's a string. We could automatically call set. We could automatically call set messages so that it updates without having to request from the server again. And that's a nice optimization. But in order to do that, we need to know what to set. So we need to hand this thing all the existing messages. I'm trying to keep these nice and clean so that they have so that the dependencies are injected, it's called. We're injecting the dependency here. But one of the dependencies would be all the existing messages if we were going to set them here too. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to say this has a text, this is going to fetch, it returns nothing. And it causes no re-render. So the client has to cause that re-render somehow. and get the new message. So we have to basically we could do either one of these. Post message, the new message text here. We can either fetch the list of messages, again, or we could say set the list of messages to include the new one. And this would be basically set messages. And we're going to say a list, which is messages plus the new message. And it's not just the new message, it's text, this, and so forth, right? This, we need to have the user ID. It's a lot trickier to make this optimization. Because you don't know the ID of this new message, and that's sort of a problem. And if the server doesn't respond with the ID from the post, we need to find that out somehow. So we'd have to look it up in order to get a full version of what the message has in it. It has an ID. It also has the user ID. So just doing this is not actually going to work very well. This is going to have some bugs. I would say don't worry about that right now, because this is a lot harder to do correctly. Don't bother. Just say fetch the list of messages again. This will get everything that's fresh from the server and set them, and we won't have to deal with that whole kind of difficulty of optimizing it. Okay. I really need to stop. So hopefully this works, and that will be it. Okay, let's see what we got. Hosting URL. It works. Maybe. Nope. We have an infinite loop again. You know, we just have nothing this time. You know, we do have it. Oh, object, that's not good. Let's do one more thing. The heck? Why would it ever do that? Oh, object, huh? This was a get. It's another get. Oh, our post is not posting. Maybe it's lowercase. I forgot how to use fetch. Oh, you do URL and then the other two. Got it. Okay. Capital. All right, deploy. Here we go. This is the lucky one. Hey, Anna, are you still on the call? No. Nope, it's, what the, gee, I wonder if I have an old version. Yeah, this is the old version. Where's the new version? There we go. No, error. Response. Ah, well, we're getting somewhere here. Got a 400. And the response was just bad request. We didn't help out at all. So we hit the 400. At least we're posting now. All right, back to functions, our silly server. Ah, I know what's going on. We have to put the correct header in there so that we have a header, so that it knows we're using JSON, right? So we basically need that exact thing. Because remember, Firebase functions were going to automatically figure out what to do with the body based on this header. Okay. One more try. Here we go. We're very close. Anna, I mean, if you do watch this, I'll take a look at that video and try to get the local, both the local and the user authentication, you know, at least figure out how to do that. And then maybe we can update next week. But, you know, I don't think either one is nearly as easy as it could be. I'm a little bit disappointed having heard like, oh, it's so easy to set this up. I mean, it's not. It's, you know, it's easy to do what we did, which is host everything you need, build it all at once, deploy it all at once. But there are so many options and so many things you can do with it that, you know, you have to basically find either a tutorial that mixes and matches exactly what you need, which is sort of what I've been working on today. This is what we end up with. Or you have to spend a lot of time learning how it works. And that's not easy with documentation that is, you know, sort of inconsistent at best. So it's a little disappointing that it's not easier, that it's not like, it doesn't actually do what it advertises, which is effortless, you know, set up authentication so easily. But most vended products like this end up being disappointing. So it's nothing new. Okay, let me make sure I have the newest thing. And what do we got? We got a 200. We don't have a new message. We have a post, and we have a get. Ah, I know what I did. So this is probably the last change. We did a post message, and then we did a fetch message, but these are both asynchronous. So we probably want to await these. And we'll say return and return. And basically, we can await no. You can't have an asynchronous effect. Got it. Okay. this has to return void. TypeScript is being very, very strict. It's like you can't return anything from this function. Fine, fine, fine. We could also probably just like call this and then return nothing, and it would be okay. Like this. Okay, never mind. You could just call this and then not return anything. But that would be bigger, and we don't really need to ever return anything from this, because as soon as we get this, we're always calling this set, which is this injected thing which updates our React state. So we don't ever need to return anything from this. Actually, you know what? I don't want this to be super confusing. We'll say why not return it. I don't want, we shouldn't have to. Cool. So as long as we put curly braces and we're not returning it, TypeScript is happy, and we can return it here. But if we put a return here, watch, it'll break again. Yep. So you can't return something. And that's very funny. And you can still put it all on one line. And fetch here and post now, because we're returning promises from both of these. We do then. Or actually, we do await. Const post equals await. We just, actually no, we just await. And then one thing is we probably want to clear the text before. So if we await this, all of a sudden, this function turns into something where it stalls on the execution of everything here while that asynchronous stuff is happening. So because we're adding the await here, we're going to want to say, clear out the text box right away. Because we're awaiting, we don't want the UI to lag, right? So, clear out the text box right away. We're going to await this, and then we can await this if we want, but it doesn't really matter because there's nothing after it. And one more thing, let's just say if new message is not equal to an empty string. So this will basically, if you mash the button, it's not going to make a bunch of empty messages. It'll only do anything if it's not empty. And the first thing it does is set it to empty. So we won't end up with, somebody waiting and saying, hey, why didn't it save? They don't see it yet. I'm going to try mashing it again. Even if they do that, it will only post that message once because of this. So this is a nice way to only save if there actually is a message. Okay. So this is getting into a little bit into React land for today, but this should be an end-to-end complete app, minus authorization. How's it going, Karen? Are you still around? Maybe not. I think everyone's fallen asleep or fatigued out. I'm really tired. This is too much stuff for one day. Especially a Sunday. It's like a 4-hour stream. Okay, maybe that's the end of it though. We'll see. So we've loading our 2 messages. Hey, it recognized the post from last time, but it didn't update because again, our async, we didn't await the first thing before requesting the second thing. So this time, nope, test 79. Hey, there it is. So it shows up at the top, which is interesting. I don't know about the ordering, but that's perhaps something to figure out. Test, 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 and I'm going to mash this button over and over, and you'll see it only does it once because it clears out right away at the first time. So there it is. I mean, you have saving, you have loading. It's all bundled up with the same kind of Firebase magic, and this should be a good starting point if you want to do everything at once with Firebase. Minus, this doesn't have the user stuff and it doesn't have local development. So we will have to sort out a way to add those later. Hopefully it's not too bad, either one, but it's very tough to know exactly how to do it without doing quite a bit of research. I don't want to make this go on any longer, so I'm going to do that on my own. So anyway, I hope everyone has a good rest of your weekend, and I'll see you around next week. We're doing hacking week. So cheers. I'll commit this, push it, and that'll be it. Have a good day.